Welcome.
Welcome to the Spirit Soul Series podcast, and we're back with another episode. We have Supriya Chechi, and we're going to continue with the 11th chapter, 55th verse. I'll just do the invocation and then we'll start.
Sure. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Datati Swapadantikam हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुत देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य चतारिणे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवसादि गौरभक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरवारधारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरवारधारी यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय श्री प्रभुपाद हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna. Right. So let's just dive straight into the last verse of the 11th chapter, which is the 55th verse. Um, let's chant together. I think
uh,
we started reading it, but since we don't know exactly where we stopped, let's just start from the beginning.
okay
Mat
मत्कर्म कृन्मत्परमो मद्भक्तः सङ्गवर्जितः निर्वैरः सर्वभूतेषु याः सामाम् इति पाण्डव
mat karma
मत्कर्म कृन्मत्परमो
mat
मद्भक्ताः सङ्गवर्जितः निर्वैरः सर्वभूतेषु याः सामाम् इति पाण्डव
mat
मत्कर्म कृन्मत्परमो
mat
मद्भक्तः सङ्गवर्जितः निर्वैरः
nirvana
सर्वभूतेषु याः सामाम् इति पाण्डव
my mat karma krit engaged in doing my work, mat paramaha considering me to be the supreme, mat bhakta engaged in my devotional service, sangha varjita freed from the contamination of non fruitive activities and mental speculation, nirvaira without an enemy, sarva bhuteshu among all living entities, ya one sahi mam unto me eti comes Pandava. O son of Pandu or Arjuna. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and is friendly to every living being. That's important. He certainly comes to me. So, this is like he's preparing the ground for starting the 12th chapter, which is very different from the 11th, because 11th chapter, being the universal form, finally is pitched at another level on the devotional ladder. So he is this concluding verse is like preparing the ground for the next one. Please read the purport, at least the first paragraph.
yeah
Anyone?
anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the Supreme Personality Krishna must take this formula as stated by the Supreme himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a book directed to the conditioned souls who are engaged in the material world with the purpose of lording it over nature and who do not know of the real spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita is meant to show how one can understand his spiritual existence and his eternal relationship with the supreme spiritual personality, and to teach one how to go back home, back to Godhead. Now, here is the verse which clearly explains the process by which one can attain success in his spiritual activity, devotional service. As far as work is concerned, one should transfer his energy entirely to Krishna conscious activities, as stated in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 255.
Just 1 minute.
Anasha,
Bhakti Samrita Sindhu is what the nectar of devotion is based on. You read the nectar of devotion also?
I think so. Wait, let me just see.
So the
Because I go along
yeah,
with that pal in that order, no. So
yeah.
I just need to
Nectar of
find out.
Instruction is the small but very crucial book. Nectar of Instruction is also called Upadeshamrita, which was the original title. Both are written by Rupa Goswami as instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
I
And Nectar of Devotion is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but normally we don't go beyond the 19th chapter. The rest of
okay.
it is considered too high. That's why I'm telling you, in case you plan to read it, you can
Oh,
stop
okay.
at the 19th chapter.
So I've read Nectar of Instruction,
That's right.
but
That's right. That's right.
once yeah, I've read, yeah, right now I'm reading that Sri Isha Upanishad now, and
Okay.
then
Uh-huh.
so yeah, I guess the yeah, this thing, what is the Nectar of Instruction? Yeah, before the Sri Isha Upanishad, the teachings of Lord Kapila, which I've read,
Okay.
and before that is Nectar of Instructions.
Right, right, right.
So yeah, I've read that, and
Okay,
then
just pointing this out for your
ah,
information that Bhaktira Samrata Sindhu is what Srila Prabhupada drew from and translated and wrote the Nectar of Devotion. Okay.
okay, okay.
Uh, now, Anashaktasya Vishayan Yathaham Upayunitah.
वाञ्छितः निर्बन्धः कृष्णसम्बन्धे युक्तं वैराग्यम् उच्यते.
This is a very original translation of what uh, detachment actually should be. That is, or what, sorry, renunciation should be. So here, this is supposed to be the authentic definition for renunciation, because normally when we talk anashaktasya vishayan, without any attachment to the objects, yatharham yet being upayunjate, as in upayogam, using it for everything in Krishna service. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, not being attached to them, but seeing their connection with Krishna as being provided by Krishna, as being parts of Krishna's energy. Yuktam Vairagya Mujjate. That is what is called Yukta Vairagya.
Mm.
Vairagya here meaning not as in Malayalam, which is taking revenge and feeling grievance. That's not the meaning in the original Sanskrit. It is Yukta. Vairagyam here means true renunciation. Yukta,
Mm.
because it is a strange renunciation where you remain detached from the objects. Yukta, but you join each of them in Krishna's service, but internally and mentally being totally detached from the actual object, not feeling the lure of these modern gadgets that make spreading Krishna's message so much easier.
Mm.
You see, it's a kind of, it's like a real tightrope walk, and many fall. It's like walking on a razor's edge, and many senior devotees, or if you like, the highest ashram, that is sannyasis, who are meant to exemplify this attitude, they have access for their preaching. People provide them, disciples and followers provide them with the latest gadgets, let's say, or facilities for travel. But if they are not being like watching themselves, like being their own watchdog, nobody will know externally what's going on in their own mind. And over time, by just becoming familiar and getting accustomed to the comforts brought by these facilities, they forget that this is really not something that belongs to them, not something that should provoke pride and possessiveness in them, or even that they demand that they want a particular standard or facility when they travel, or whatever, when they are preaching and teaching.
So, just actually, since you raised this point, I wanted to ask also. So you have
Right.
like a lot of like senior like sannyasi
Yes.
devotees, like so they a lot of the times they'll be like traveling to various places and they'll be going
Right.
and giving lectures and like take Keshav Maharaj Swami or
Right.
Chaitanya Charan Prabhu or who it is.
Yes.
So often like they they'll have a team who'll collect funds for them, and they'll pay for their expenses to
Sure.
go
And
abroad
make
and
the
all stuff.
arrangements and also make all the
So
arrangements.
they
Yeah.
arrangements for so they don't have any like of their own money that they have. Is that
That's true.
so?
They
Who
don't
has
have.
that money? Like who has that money? Is that from? Is that the Bhaktivedanta Manor will have that, or who has
No,
that?
it depends. If someone's invited him, normally they host him. So the money is
Oh,
from the host temple. They will send him his
oh,
ticket and they will send the car, and he will not have any money of his own. Now there are sannyasis I'm not naming, but who doesn't even have a bank account. There is somebody.
who
He
has a
was
bank? Like has a bank?
he
Who
does
doesn't have?
not have a bank account.
Doesn't have a bank. Okay.
That's rather rare. I'm not sure if all sannyasis are like that. I'm not sure, but I know somebody. I mean, he's in perfectly good standing. He's terribly energetic, um, wise, elderly, large following, teaches, especially Charitamrita very well. Actually, he was my father's guru. He is my father's guru. My father is no more, so I'm using the past tense. He
Okay.
had come to Kerala. He's a Scottish person,
Uh huh.
Scotsman originally, but
Uh
he
huh.
speaks Chinese because he's lived in China for so long. And he has a lot of even Malayali Kerala followers who have ended up in the Gulf who are attracted to him and taken Diksha from him. So he takes this to another level because he does not have a bank account. If we want to give him money, we can't send him. He will give the account of somebody else who is like serving him or helping him, and you send it there. That person acknowledges and that person takes it out for his travel and other expenses, medicine or whatever. So that's one extreme. I'm not sure if other sannyasis in ISKCON are like that, but the point that is being made here is the normal translation or the understanding of renunciation or vairagyam, and especially in the sannyasa ashram, we said you don't use anything fancy, that because it's all maya.
Mm.
Don't travel by plane, don't use a
So
latest
so then
gadget.
so just like maybe okay on that point also, then I guess
Yeah,
like then people will also then ask like um even if they don't have like a bank account or they don't have any money, but people can ask them like, but but it's coming in handy for you basically. It's
yeah,
like
because without
it's
money
like that.
you can't reach a
Can't do
place
all this.
unless you
Yeah.
pay. Yeah, of course, mind you, there are devotees who are owners. I know there is somebody who's working for Jet Airways. He's become very high in the ladder in the
Mm.
Gulf. What is his name? Shivalla Prabhu. He's originally a Tamilian. So he sponsors tickets. He
Oh.
sponsors the whole year's travel for my Guru Jayapataka Swami and
Mm.
whoever else, because he has those surplus funds. This is another thing. I mean, somebody can come forward and just sponsor and pay for everything. That's
Mm.
good. They will also get the benefit of that. But the difference is between certain other spiritual organizations, which in the traditional format believe that sannyasi means that you are walk
Can't.
barefoot, live in very austere conditions. Actually, the sannyasi should be willing to do even that, even the ISKCON sannyasis. That's why I said it is like walking on a razor's edge. They're essential training because if they've been through the brahmacharya ashram, you talked about Kesha Swami and Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is a different ashram, he is in brahmacharya ashram. Both are severe, I mean, both are severe in terms of austerities that they've been trained for. So internally, it's very tough because very tough because especially for the sannyasi, wherever they go, they get the Lord's plate of Mahaprasadam, which is just off the altar. You know,
Mm.
they get adulation, and people are, if all the time people are falling at your feet and asking for blessings and giving dakshina and only saying nice things because they don't want to irritate you, or it is a very tricky business.
Mm.
And
Because
yeah,
because like there are many sannyasis like you just pointed out like who are probably having in maybe staying wherever it could be, but they're probably in a much severe like austere condition they're living in. They have no connection to anything, so they don't
right,
even know what a podcast is or what anything else is and all that,
right.
and they're living in some remote part of the world and they're doing their
Sure,
like they're doing their own practice and all that like that.
sure.
and they must be obviously like highly spiritually advanced and all stuff.
Sure.
Uh, but also like we kind of tend to hear in many parts, not just in like in the Gita or like Bhagavatam or wherever else, even in Ishopanishad or various other books and all stuff. Prabhupada keeps stressing the point that that all the processes are like are good, but then if you go to the
Take bhakti.
bhakti path, then it'll transcend and all stuff.
Elevator.
But
The elevator to the top. Take the elevator.
yeah,
It's faster. Yeah.
but like, but I guess the question is like if even if you're practicing bhakti and you're like engaged in like let's say like in let's say materialistic act, like you're engaged in the material world in this in at least in the way that you need to use the material world to for preaching and to doing all the other things and all stuff.
For preaching. Yeah, it is very much for preaching.
Okay, but also, but is that going to like hinder your uh,
It
progression
should, it
compared to
should
somebody who's let's say
no, it
more
should not. Look at that other person is not doing any preaching. What preaching can he do if he's sitting in some remote part? He is helping
okay,
himself. That's different. You see,
okay,
he
okay.
is doing it for his own personal advancement. But Krishna is saying repeatedly that whoever gives this message to others is more dear to me than anyone else. It will come in the 18th
Mm,
chapter, right? So it is only for preaching and for what Krishna wants and what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants, basically to save people who are living animalistic lives and going in their future lifetimes to the darkest regions of hell.
okay.
Or forget about their future journey. Forget that. Let's say that it's not in our hands to decide where they're going. Just the suffering that they know now, because their mind has no peace, they don't know what is what, they commit suicide because they saw no meaning to their life, they don't know what is the purpose of the human life, they are lonely, they feel they have no friend, they are in tyrannical governments living there, places that are being bombed. Actually, Israel, before the Hamas bombed them, there's a Russian sannyasi, very fluent in English and very of an intellectual bent of mind, called Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj. So Bhakti Vigyan Goswami was doing a camp there, camp not as in war camp, but he was just having a nice retreat there with a whole lot of Russian devotees when the bomb
Mm,
started falling. And somehow they got saved and they are back in Russia now. And even not just Israel, in Iran, ISKCON sometimes had to close the center and open depending on the mood of the public there. Not public, the government. After the Ayatollah Khomeini revolution, when it was the Shah, it was different. But after that, this Ayatollah Khomeini and company, they won't tolerate anything. But whenever they saw a little opening, they did open a center. They did appoint a GBC member. I know the person personally, a person who was GBC. Then they withdraw him because things have become too dicey and too dangerous.
mm.
So what is all this risk taking for? Because Krishna wants every jiva to get this message and take it up in his or her own way, and whether in this lifetime or taking many lifetimes, eventually go back to him to get out of the material world. How do
Mm.
they even know all this unless this knowledge reaches them? So many people
So
took
the
risk.
so the so the preaching aspect of that it'll be more it's more that way will be more beneficial than the
Definitely.
because
Yeah, yeah.
it's more selfless, and whereas the other thing is more selfish, and I mean not I don't know, can you use the word selfish in the other
Yes,
selfish
you can
selfish okay, okay.
use the word selfish, because these people who take big risks, they say, we get purified through the fire of preaching and through, in certain countries, the fire of book distribution. Now, when the Iron Curtain, that stage in Russia, they this who was it? I think it was Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He is no more. That is an African sannyasi, nicely, very well read, and wrote some very interesting books. Bhakti Tirtha, if you type, you will see.
I think I've
Spiritual
seen a this thing of it, like
warrior.
I think his face I've seen in one
Right, right,
I've
right.
seen him, yeah.
Okay. So Bhakti Tirtha Swami, he basically went, like, dared to go beyond the Iron Curtain to try to. Sorry, is the Iron Curtain Russia, or are we talking about the two parts of Germany?
Iron
It's
Iron
Russia. Russia.
okay, okay, okay. I'm not
Berlin
sure
Wall.
actually.
Berlin Wall is what divided West Germany and East
West
Germany.
Germany is even, yeah.
Yeah. So there, and in this Russian situation, taking very great risks to their lives, they basically took. What do? I mean, they take these books and distribute the literature. or they get someone to hand copy the book because the books are banned, and then bring out translations, Russian translations. All kinds of great risks were taken. In South Africa during apartheid, when the early disciples of Prabhupada were going there and spreading all this and preaching, we are not this body. It totally contrary to the dominant ideology of that apartheid regime, which is that if you are white, you have a white body, you are superior. If you have a black body, meaning very much that we are the body. So it is in a complete contradiction to that. But they took such risks, and one of them, there's a slim book brought out by that big disciple of Srila Prabhupada. There were two brothers. The one who got the Bhagavad Gita, a publisher, not Gurudas, but the other one.
Like,
Just the two brothers. Gosh, no, the two brothers. The one who went to Pakistan, Prabhupada cried because he thought he's been killed there. The one who started preaching. Both of them are now no more now. Wait.
what are the it's a publisher or something?
No. He was a disciple and servant to Srila Prabhupada. He's famous because he finally found a publisher for Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. But there were two brothers. One of them was very big and used to live in Vrindavan. Both have passed, at least one of them has passed away.
Seems to be an echo in my voice. Yeah, I'm not able to see.
Wait. Gurudas is Yamuna Devi's ex-husband, but we are talking of someone else, right? I'll just type early prominent disciples of Srila Prabhupada.
Okay.
Gosh, that's really strange. It's not. How can his name not be here? Say that.
Brahmananda.
Brahmananda is one of them. Wait.
Macmillan.
Yeah. But wait. Yeah. The big one, the big guy. Brahmananda. That's him.
That's him.
Brahmananda. Wait. I'll just tell you something interesting. Because Brahmananda and his brother, Gargamuni and Brahmananda, they were two brothers. So Brahmananda has written this very good book. It's a slim book. What is it called?
Swamiji and early disciple. That one.
No. A Swami remembers.
Oh.
This is the book. It's available on Amazon. I have it here. Wait.
Okay.
Brahmananda's an early disciple. I think a Swami remembers is the short title. Actually, it is an early.
Swamiji and early disciple. That one, right?
That's right. A Swamiji. Sorry, the short title is Swamiji. That's right.
Swamiji.
It's there. He's got different chapters on his experiences with Prabhupada in different parts of the world where they went to pioneer, do pioneering preaching and just make some contacts, which then today have led to thousands of devotees there and proper centers and the distribution of this literature. So he says in South Africa it was so risky that if you're caught going against the government in any way, even distributing this kind of books, it not only that death was guaranteed, but the most horrible type of death. Because what they would do, even to the black skinned rebellious groups there, they would tie them hands tie their hands and feet so that they couldn't run, do anything, and then place a burning tire around their neck. So the tire would burn, then their clothes would catch, and there was nothing they could do to get away from the situation. That was the guaranteed and very cruel death sentence that was carried out. It was like in the Middle East, it is, either you execution, the chop off your head, or you're hung strangulation, or you're hung from a rope. Here it was like this. So the disciples knew they are taking very great risks. Now, for
mm,
what? Because so many people have come to a more sattvic way of life and understood this literature, and given up. Otherwise, all the time, the government and Maya are waiting with all kinds of demonic and sinful activities to trap them. That is, you can call it philosophically Maya's energy. But what about the kind of the suffering that the people and their families undergo right now? Here I have yes, I had gone for a kind of palagachal, and I met someone there, and she was telling me she does voluntary counseling for clinics that are into mental health. Now the kind of problems that parents are bringing with children, school children, young college, mostly high school, it's just so much that she feels she wants to go for counseling. And it's mostly
oh,
about drugs. It's about all kinds of incest. Utterly, it's like really Maya Devi opened her arms and just caught this whole generation. We're talking of Trivandrum, and recently they opened a kind of avenue which is 1 kilometer from my house. It's like where we would go walking for a mornings. It's become the night hotspot for drugs, the drug racket. Saraswati Puja, in Pujapara here, recently we had Dasera, and Saraswati Puja is the Vijayadashami day, or I think the day before, or Vijayadashami. That day, there is a famous mandapam in Pujapara where every year a Saraswati is brought from far away. A traditional Saraswati deity comes from the neighboring taluk or something, placed there. My friend from ISKCON who goes to serve there and do flower garlands, she said it's so shocking and so um, defeating, because so many young people are picked up in the police vans at night because they're sitting there openly doing drugs.
mm,
So what is this? I mean, if somewhere we can what is it to get the human form of life, and then
mm.
to waste it like this because they don't know what other purpose it was meant for. Nobody told them. The schools they went to didn't tell them how risky and dangerous, or they just on that trip they want to kind of wreck and break everything.
Mm.
So, like this on a mass scale, that's why when Menaka Gandhi recently made those outrageous, untrue some video she did of how ISKCON is into, doesn't treat the Goshalas are
Cows.
sham. Yeah, cows. I mean, she really got it back, because not just okay, there may be a couple of Goshalas somewhere here and there where there is neglect because of overwork or overload. But as in the rejoinder that ISKCON put out, and it was, I got many from many sources, I got kind of different responses. It said the great thing that ISKCON has done, forget about just protecting cows and goshalas and all that. They are able to save cows and teach people the greatness and value of protecting cows and living with cows and loving cows and serving cows, because that is Krishna's world. They are able to do it in countries where beef is a staple diet. You're talking about Russia, Germany. So that's a huge achievement, to go in to take the war into the enemy's camp. It's
So it's
one
kind
thing.
of like most people won't be like most people in the outside at least will probably look at ISKCON and the organization and be like, okay, this is just any other maybe religious organization, and they're not there's not much in that. But I guess people who are in it will know like, okay, we are doing all this work, we're doing all this. So it's like when you when it's almost like when when something happens, then we're able to like explain like, okay, this is what
Exactly.
is the thing. But yeah, like some I think I'm not sure who, but I remember somebody like asking this question, like or whether like somebody asking this question to this Keshamar or somebody like, uh, what can you do if like if somebody doesn't is not interested or is not like um who's just not willing to
Yeah, yeah.
accept like. There was one I remember, because I remember there was this story in somewhere in Prabhupada, the Leelamrita, no? There was
Right.
one story where there was towards the end somewhere, it was just like mentioned in a part, like it was just mentioned in the story in part of the Leela, where
Yeah.
Prabhupada was somewhere in America, and one of the American disciples, there was some disciple who like who was once a disciple of Prabhupada but then left,
Uh-huh.
and then after leaving, he he came back to the temple where Prabhupada was there, but he didn't join. He just
Right.
came back, not as a disciple, and I think Prabhupada like kind of asked him there, like, oh, so you've come back and all that, and then he's like, no, no, I'm actually very comfortable where I am right now. Like I'm very okay, right? Like, where I am right, I'm very I think. So yeah, then I think then after that he left, and like whatever. But it was like a very small part, and for some reason, like I've always like wondered, like the person like who a person like who leaves and
Yeah.
who's no longer there, like what is, let's say, like compelling that person to like leave, if while knowing all the like the knowledge and everything else and other stuff about
One is
Krishna,
because they maybe
like
they resent that they are not allowed to do the sinful activities they got used to or developed a taste for. But mostly it is because they are not getting the association that acts as a great help.
like a help for them.
Yeah, to help. It's like true of anything. You're going for a coaching class. Suddenly, all your friends move to some other tutorial college. You're left all. You just decide you don't want to take coaching to get into the IAS or wherever. You run out of steam. You just
Hmm.
prefer to like say sleep late and never mind. I'll do a BSc or a BA and who cares for the IAS, and then we'll think about it. Why? Where do these thoughts come from? Because that support you were getting is suddenly gone. So
Hmm.
something like that must be happening, and then the taste for the easier way of life is pulling you back. But in most of the, like you correctly pointed out, so some episode has to happen for ISKCON to basically get a chance to explain the kind of the scale of work. It's not that there are not problems in ISKCON. There are huge problems in different parts of ISKCON, and lots of issues that have to be addressed, or there's turmoil. But the basic philosophy, and if you weigh the two, if you see the extent of the success and the how people are coming and taking to it, it's because it's offering a kind of the actual truth it is offering. Isn't it that this material world is a pretty very dangerous and precarious place? You never know next minute what's going to happen that will pull down your old wonderful world or whatever. And for people who left, yes, Prabhupada always used to say that don't be surprised at the numbers who will leave, because he gave Diksha to many thousands. And they came in that kind of initial flash of excitement, something novel. There's a Swamiji who is very kind, who's engaging me. Once Prabhupada left, firstly, a lot of others left because they just didn't see any future.
Hmm.
Those who stayed on, I think you have to give a lot of credit to them. They were
Correct.
still, yeah, a lot of credit, because they were never going to get someone as charismatic or someone they felt as close to Prabhupada as earlier. There was no way. And going back to the point about this Yukta Vairagyam and using wealthy, costly items, in Prabhupada's own lifetime, when he was, the disciples would say, Swami Prabhupada, the situation is right now in this part of east coast of America and the west coast. We are going to fly you in here. We don't have a center here now. We don't have any devotees, so we're putting you up in a hotel. They would take the presidential suite or whatever it's called, the biggest. But what would Prabhupada do there sitting in the presidential suite? He was not interested in the luxury and facilities. Why did they select it? Because he had coached them that if important people in society are going to come to meet the Swamiji, and he is sitting under a tree with a broken umbrella, they are not. They are so materially brainwashed to appreciate only material success that they won't take him seriously. Whereas when they are led into they're supposing a notice in the papers that you want to meet the Indian Swami, he is right now available for evening darshan in such and such hotel, go up to the sixth floor presidential suite, makes a huge impact. And what does Prabhupada himself do sitting in the presidential suite? He doesn't sit there, like I said, enjoying the material sinful luxuries or anything. He's sitting up all night translating, speaking into his dictaphone. He never loses his focus. Early morning doing his Tintin puja, getting after his disciples to make sure that the prasadam is ready. So it all depends, because he is the ultimate example of someone who this verse, Anasaktasya Vishayan Yata. He
Mm.
didn't see he didn't see that he is the possessor of any of these facilities. He saw
Mm.
it all as belonging to Krishna, that is given very kindly supplied to by Krishna to him to use back in the service of Krishna. This is the ultimate and the highest definition of renunciation. So it's called Yukta
Vairagam.
Vairagya. Yukta meaning not just Vairagyam, Yukta. Yukta Vairagyam, because you are Yukta. Yunja, yoga means to
Yoga.
unite, to
Unite.
connect. Yeah, you're connecting everything with the Lord. So as I
Mm.
said, it's a lot of sannyasis, or at least a few sannyasis who came after Srila Prabhupada, that is as his disciples, they didn't succeed. In the sense, they did fall down because they got tempted by the facilities. And we, even today we hear complaints of, one or two who are particular, they want to travel business class. They particular when they are booked. That's not the mood of a sannyasi at all. It's wrong. The disciples know, so they take the matter to the GPC and file lodge complaints. So it's kind of real tightrope walk, as we said. This anasaktasya vishaya yataram upayunjata nirbandha krishna sambandhe yukta vairagyam uchate. Okay. Continue reading. No work should be done.
No work should be done by any man excepting relationship to Krishna. This is called Krishna karma. One may be engaged in various activities, but one should not be attached to the result of his work. The result should be done only for him. For example, one may be engaged in business, but to transform that activity into Krishna consciousness, one has to do business for Krishna. If Krishna is the proprietor of the business, then Krishna should enjoy the profit of the business. If a businessman is in possession of thousands and thousands of dollars, and if he has to offer all this to Krishna, he can do it. This is work for Krishna. Instead of constructing a big building for his sense gratification, he can construct a nice temple for Krishna, and he can install the deity of Krishna and arrange for the deity's service, as is outlined in the authorized books of devotional service. This is all Krishna karma. One should not be attached to the result of his work, but the result should be offered to Krishna. One should accept as prasadam the remnants of offerings to Krishna. If one constructs a very big building for Krishna and installs the deity of Krishna, one is not prohibited from living there. But it is understood that the proprietor of the building is Krishna. That is called Krishna consciousness. If, however, one is not able to construct a temple for Krishna, one can engage himself in cleansing the temple of Krishna. That is also Krishna karma. One can cultivate a garden. Anyone who has land in India, at least any poor man has certain amount of land, can utilize that for Krishna by growing flowers to offer him. One can sow tulsi plants because tulsi leaves are very important, and Krishna has recommended this in the Bhagavad Gita. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Krishna, Krishna
Desires.
desires that one offer him either a leaf or a flower or fruit or a little water, and by such an offering he is satisfied. This leaf especially refers to the tulsi. So one can sow tulsi and pour water on the plant. Thus, even the poorest man can engage in the service of Krishna. These are some of the examples of how one can engage in working for Krishna.
Okay, just stop there, because traditionally every Indian house would have tulasi. And if you check with your mother, probably even she has tulasi out in the garden or somewhere, especially with your
Yeah,
grandmother.
I think it's there. Yeah, it's there only. I think in the garden.
Because
Yeah.
tulsi is very purifying. And in cold climate countries, like, after they come to the movement, they made hot houses to keep the tulsi safe when it gets bitterly cold, minus 20 degrees in Russia. They take it as some devotees have taken it as a service to make tulsi grow nicely, because it is so purifying. We are not aware. It purifies on the subtle level. That is why we add a tulsi leaf to every offering that is made to the deities, because then he is sure to accept it because of the presence of the tulsi. The word Mat Parama refers to one who considers the association of Krishna as his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. Okay. Such a person does not wish to be elevated to the higher planets, such as the moon or the sun or heavenly planets, or even the highest planet of this universe, Brahmaloka. He has no attraction for that. He is only attracted to being transferred to the spiritual sky, and even in the spiritual sky, he is not satisfied with merging into the glowing Brahmajyoti effulgence, for he wants to enter the highest spiritual planet, namely Krishna Loka, Goloka, Vrindavan. His full knowledge of that planet, and therefore he is not interested in any other. As indicated by the word Madbhakta, he fully engages in devotional service, especially in the 9 processes of devotional engagement: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, carrying out the orders of the Lord, making friends with Him, and surrendering everything to Him. One can engage in all 9 devotional processes, Navavidhi Bhakti, that is, or 8 or 7, or at least in one. And that will surely make one perfect. If you were to be asked which is the one that actually appeals to you and that you're engaging in most, what would you say? Shravanam, Kirtanam,
Um,
Vishnu,
I think
this reading, hearing, yeah,
yeah, I think it'll be like I think the most one would be like
Shrav,
hearing
yeah,
hearing,
yeah,
Shravanam,
Shrav,
and
yeah, hearing and
and
reading.
chanting. I kind of like Kirtanam. Like I don't like I'm not like I don't have any Kirtan drum or anything like that. But
No, but
I just like
Kirtan,
with the beat. I have the japa beats and I'll be chanting like that. Like be like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Like I'll be
right,
like that. So that
yeah,
I'll do.
that is Kirtan. That is
Yeah.
actually Kirtan,
Then
just really.
remembering also. I mean, yeah. Actually, the thing I find like at least in my case, what happens is that um I think like whenever I always try to remember or at least think about Krishna
Very
if or
nice.
or try to be in one state where I can always like at least like think about him, because if I can
Sure.
at least think about him,
Right.
then I can like then I'll know when when things are going wrong. I can manage things that way and all that stuff. But I guess in my case, I don't know about other people, but at least my case, like writing things down or hearing things and all that is like facilitating, at least in my case, like the remembering aspect, or at least like the thinking of Krishna, that part of it. Like
Very nice.
so it
Mm,
helps in like kind of I think the more I like read and the more I engage in, like, let's say I listen to a podcast with somebody and they discuss some things or about
right.
Krishna consciousness or something, that kind of that's like helping me to like remember Krishna more in times when I can't do those things basically.
Right. I
And
understand. Because of
yeah,
material
so
compulsions.
because I like
Nice.
even if you hear the stories of like these like people like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or
Right.
those Goswamis or any of the like these very famous sannyasis and very famous people they all have like this thing of being able to remember or being able to like see Krishna and everything in
Absolute.
all the activities they do. And I think
Right.
like it'll be really nice to get to that point where you can
I
like
agree.
try to see like where you don't see things as just a material thing. They may be a material thing, but at least if you can see it from that it is created by Krishna, things like that and all, that would be really a good
See
place to
the
be in.
connection.
But yeah, even now also it's difficult to see it in that way because you kind of uh yeah, maybe it's the Maya that's covering the illusion. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Correct. You know, but it's like always work in progress. No, we try and then we keep kind of, we can even review the progress, and sometimes it seems like we're moving backwards. Then again, we
Mm,
kind of pick ourselves up. It's always just work in progress. Even for those who are able, as you mentioned, to see Krishna and everything, they will also tell you it is work in progress. Because there
mm,
is Krishna is limitless and there is no end to how intensely even those who are seeing him all the time will say there is still so much ground to cover in terms of the intensity with which, or the feelings when, if they were to ever come back in front of us and openly tell us, yes, I am Rupa Goswami, I've been able to see Krishna and everything, I am empowered, but they will still say there is still so much ground for me, and they mean it,
mm,
to cover in terms of the intensity with which I feel for Krishna, or with which I see the connection in everything. So wherever we are, however humble the position is, it's basically a work in progress. That's what we need to tell ourselves. Okay, we have to stop here because it's past 6 o'clock. So next class we start with the Sangha Varjita. That's a different point.
okay,
Okay, is it all right? Because I have to get into the kitchen now after 6. So
okay.
we're starting with Sangha Vartita next time, and we complete definitely the 11th chapter. So again, Sunday next, Saturday, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll just end this podcast once and
right.